Wealth Management 101 for lawyers. That's the topic of this video. Stay tuned. We're talking about it right now. This one's fun for me because I am a lawyer. I practice law. I was a member of the bar and I did this for a living, and I know a whole bunch of lawyers. And I think this is incredibly important. And I kind of wish someone would have taught me this back when I was a lawyer about building my wealth and saving and retiring, because I know most lawyers, and the ones that I know, they have a tendency to have a real big cash burn. So what we're going to talk about today, first of all, is some tips, some ideas. We're going to talk about some tax structure and corporation ideas. We're going to talk potentially about IPPs and other stuff you can do, and basically the best way to build out your wealth while you're a lawyer, to take advantage of the tools that you can do. Before we get to that, take a sec to subscribe, press like, share, tell your friends about us. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just do it. We want to get to the million subscribers, and you're going to be one of those. So I appreciate you doing that. So as I mentioned, I used to be a lawyer. I practice law. Now I give people wealth advice. So this video topic for me is kind of a natural because I've seen both, and I do have a lot of lawyer clients, a whole bunch. I do have a lot of lawyer friends, close friends that I would consider close friends. So I've seen a lot of their personal situation. I feel like this advice is going to be good for you if you're a lawyer and you've not gone through the process of having a plan put in place for your wealth. So when you start out as a lawyer, you probably have a ton of debt. You probably have a relatively low income relative to what your debt load is. And you're expecting that income to grow. First couple of years might be a little slow, but then you're probably going to get into a period of time where maybe you become a partner, the income grows dramatically, you can participate in profit sharing. And then the big years are kind of the last 20 years of your career where you're just, hopefully things are going really well, the firm is doing really well and is paying out either significant share ownership bonuses or salaries, however it's structured. So if you're a lawyer, you likely have a law corp and you are providing advice through your law corp. Now, you may have not had that when you were younger. You probably didn't have that as an early lawyer. So if you're a first few years out, you're likely being paid a salary. If that is the case, think of this, how big is the debt? What should I be doing with any disposable income? Depending on your interest rate on your debt. Now, if your interest rate is remarkably low on your student loans or whatever debt you've accumulated in becoming a lawyer, and you have a runway to pay that debt, I would advise you to start saving instead, right? Depending on your risk tolerance, depending on what this looks like, but it might make more sense for you to put that money in a TFSA or an RSP and to pay down the debt kind of on a slow projection or trajectory. I know that a lot of you guys out there are really gung-ho on paying down the debt. But if it's at a really low rate, might not make sense for you to do that. I would suggest you just consider that. Okay, so now you've paid down the debt, you're accumulating income, you have that money in there. So where should it go? Should it go to an RSP or a TFSA? If it's not in the corp yet, we'll get to the corp situation in a sec. So you're getting salary, early years, you're a lawyer. Where should the money go? Well, first of all, if your income is high, you should take advantage of the RSP. The reason being, you're young, you're gonna have a whole bunch of years of tax-free compound growth inside your RSP, and you're gonna be able to take advantage of the fact that there's not gonna be any income or any tax charged on the income inside the RSP. On top of that, you probably have very little in RSP, so it makes sense to start now. The idea being, you're a 25, 26, 30-year-old lawyer, and you're going to be building wealth for the time you're 65. Eventually, you're going to likely be building that wealth through your corp. But for now, if your income's, probably 75, 100, 150, that should go towards an RSP. I would also caution you and suggest to you to make sure you have a portion of your investments that are put aside for a tax-free savings account. You do want to have liquidity in your investments. Liquidity meaning able to convert that investment into cash, which is usable. So stocks inside a TFSA are perfect for that. If ever you need to, you could sell them, convert to cash, pull the money out of your TFSA and use it as a rainy day fund or whatever need you might have for cash. Liquidity is important. Your structure, your corporate structure, at some point, you're likely going to be offered the opportunity to have an incorporated entity providing legal advice. So it's going to be, your name, law corporation, or something along the lines of that. Now that becomes effectively your operating company. That is the company that's giving advice. The firm is likely paying that company for its advice. And then you could choose to pay yourself a salary from that corporation. If you're starting out, it's okay to have one corporate. Eventually, you're probably going to want to consider to have, in addition to having the operating company, the law company, you're probably going to want a holding company or an investment company tied to that for the simple reason that, you're kind of removing your assets from your law company for liability, for other reasons. But more importantly, it can sit there, right? Your asset can sit and grow through your holding company. So if your provincial bar allows that, it's something to consider. Every province is different, but if they do allow that, it's definitely something to consider. You're going to want to make absolute sure that you're actually saving, because what happens is if you don't save, if you just pull out all of the income from your corp, then you're actually not benefiting in any way from your corporate structure. The shirt here says keep saving and retire early, right? So the key with lawyers is you guys are going to have such a high income. You're going to have so much income that the power of compounding is on your side. I recognize you're going to have expenses. I recognize you might have a family, a young family. But when you start making those big bucks, you're going to have to I would suggest you put a plan in place as to how much you're going to save annually. The great thing about you is you don't need to pay it out as a salary, pay tax on it, and then invest it. You can invest it directly through your law corp or your investment corp. That way, you're not paying tax on the income that's being pulled out. So think of it this way, $1 of income in the corp, you pull it out, you pay it to yourself as a salary. If you're making top tax bracket, you're down to 50 cents and you're investing that 50 cents. Whereby if it stays in the law corp, you're going to pay some tax on it as income, 9% or 10%, whatever it may be. But the rest of that 90 cents can be invested. And instead of investing 50 cents, you're investing 90 cents. And that 90 cents is going to compound. You could still buy the same stocks. You could still buy the same growth companies that you wanted to buy in your TFSA. But instead of owning them in a TFSA, now you owe them in your law corp or in your investment corp. All right. Now, the investment corp should be the place, or the law corp should be the place over time where you are focusing your growth. So leave some money in the corp every year. You should be leaving money in the corp. If you're having a good year, leave a little bit extra, invest that. Work with a portfolio manager, an investment advisor, someone like myself. And if you're not sure, go to www.speaktorob.com. Love to book a no obligation consultation to show you exactly how that works. I've seen it, I don't know how many times with my clients. They're building their wealth through the wrong avenues. They come here and they go, Rob, I don't know what I'm doing. Perfect. Let's help you out. Let's make sure we're building the wealth for you in the most optimal place. And where is that for you, a lawyer? It's in your law corp or your investco or your holdco if you have one of those, or potentially a family trust if you got one of those. The key is not to pay tax on that income and to leave it inside one of the corporations to grow, compound at a much faster rate. Finally, I'll give you another idea here, an IPP. If this is allowed in your firm, if this is allowed in your jurisdiction, you should consider an individual pension plan, which might make a ton of sense for you. I work with a whole bunch of lawyers that have IPPs, and it's a dramatic way to increase the amount that your corporation is paying for your retirement. The way it works is you as an executive can structure an IPP, an individual pension plan. You can move a whole chunk of assets upon forming it. Typically, you got to be over the age of 40. Typically, you want to be high income, and typically you want to have disposable cash in the corp. So you do that, you structure an IPP, you're then able to shelter a whole bunch of money. And then instead of having, a small-ish RSP contribution every year, you can pack your personal individual pension plan with a whole whack of dollars. It works. I've seen it. I have a whole whack of clients that do it every single year. They're putting aside, instead of putting aside 25 or 28 grand in their RSP, they're putting aside 30 to 35 and 40 and $50,000 every year in their IPP. Something to consider. It works. Might not be for you, but depending on your age and your income, it could work. So, all right, guys, remember the key, right? You want to save. You want to save and retire early, because nobody wants to be at their desk when they're 65, or maybe you do, but nobody wants to be. You want to have the opportunity to be able to leave your desk when you're 65 or 60 or 55 or 70, whenever you want to, on your own terms. And to do that, obviously, you need to make sure you save and you retire, and you do it the most tax efficient way possible. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Rob Tatro from robtatro.com, portfolio manager here at Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management and the Tatro Wealth Advisor Group. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you in the next video.